line. Over there, over there. Send the word over there. That the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. The drums coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer. Send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, this is Joshua Littrell of Veterans for Cannabis. I'm extremely honored today and privileged, if you will, to introduce you all to Dave Gunny Miller. Gunny, I want to say thank you so much, sir, for joining us today on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast. We're going to go through a litany of things as we talk and really just get to know each other and help our listeners understand a little bit more about you. But you're a Vietnam veteran, and we want to really talk about your experiences, and then we're going to talk about medical cannabis and what it's doing for you or what you have heard about it and how we can maybe help our brothers and sisters understand a little bit more about medical cannabis and industrial hemp and really start opening up that dialogue to the Veterans Administration so that we can have those true, accurate, correct conversations. So Gunny, thanks so much for joining us today, brother. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be on this call with you today.
Thank you for asking me. Appreciate it.
So, Gunny, tell us a little bit about, first and foremost, where you're at in the world today, if you don't mind.
Well, where I'm at in the world right now, I live in Largo, Florida.
Largo?
I'm retired. Well, I thought I was retired, but for the last 28, almost 30 years, I volunteer at the VA hospital. I'm a national hospital representative and an advocate for veterans. I work on their claims and just keeps me busy helping other vets, not thinking about some of my issues.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Gunny, for our listeners, so they understand, if you're retired, sir, I'll tell you what, I'm terrified of being retired because you're the busiest veteran I know. And I don't just mean busy like busy, I mean effective busy. Gunny, you are an absolute just inspiration to me, our community, our brothers and sisters. When we think about the people who make a difference in our lives, I admire you and admire you so much because you just press forward all the time. You continue to fight and continue on with that mission. And, we've talked about it on this podcast a number of different times. One of the things that is oftentimes the issue when we get out of the military is that we lose our sense of mission. Our brothers and sisters don't have something to live for anymore. Gunny, you're still living. You're still doing that for your brothers and sisters. How do you do that? How do you find that energy?
Well, to be honest with you, I just sort of dug down inside to try to cope with my own issues that I had, medical and mental issues that I had for years, and to do something positive to give back to our veterans community so nothing would ever happen to another generation of veterans that happened to our Vietnam veterans. And then,
Gunny, if you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer this or not, but if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about what your struggles have been with from a mental standpoint? And if you don't feel comfortable with it, that's okay. You don't have to. But I'm just trying to help our brothers and sisters get a more thorough understanding of some of the things that you've dealt with, that our community deals with, and how to keep working through it.
Well, when I first come back from my first tour in Vietnam, I had a lot of problems. I mean, I turned 18 years old in Vietnam.
Wow.
And, it's just, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and when I come home, I had a lot of issues. I didn't understand what was going on, and actually the government didn't. They didn't really know what PTSD was. So a lot of us suffered for years after that. I mean, for example, outside of Philadelphia, there's a little VA hospital called the Coatesville VA. Back in the mid-'70s, when I say mid-'70s, 72 or 3, if a veteran went to the VA hospital at Coatesville to find out what was going on, they didn't know what PTSD was. They called you psychotic, and you were mentally unstable, and they put you on Prozac and Thorazine and put you in a padded room in a straitjacket. That's what their treatment was. Now, you know what that did to a lot of vets, because that even made them worse.
Yeah, it does. And Gunny, we've had a number of different podcasts, and one of the things that always comes up is that they use the term zombie. Is that an accurate description of what those medicines make our brothers and sisters feel like?
Well, they not only make them a zombie, they actually turn them into a different individual. To be honest with you, it makes them worse than they ever thought of being. And there is a point, if you know anything about mental health, that you can be put past a breaking point, and it's really hard for anything to happen to get you to come back. And as you can see, back in the days after the Vietnam War for years, we had the same thing happen that young vets are doing now, committing suicide. But they were committing suicide because they didn't know what was going on, not because they couldn't get help.
Right.
The government didn't have any help to offer them.
Right.
You know, that's why we're trying to make sure, when I say we, the majority of Vietnam vets are pushing to make sure the younger vets get taken care of nowadays all over the country. And we're trying to make sure that these younger vets don't fall in the cracks like we did for 30 years, 35 years. I mean, the vets, they need as much mental health stability they can get. That's my biggest concern. We weren't allowed to do 4 tours in a row. You had to come home. You could extend and go back. I understand the guys in OAF, OEF, some of them doing 4, 5, 6 tours before they come home. I mean, do you know what kind of stress and anxiety and mental condition they're going to be when they get older, doing all that combat and not having anybody to help them?
It's terrible, Gunny. And, you know, before we get into that, I want to first and foremost thank you, because it's men and women like you who served that didn't get treated well when you came home, that made sure. I'm an Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran, and I've been treated exceptionally well throughout my military career. And from a veteran standpoint, I always get treated really, really well. And that's because of men and women like you. So, Gunny, from our generation, we are so thankful for you, for your brothers and sisters that served, for those of your brothers and sisters that didn't come home, that paid the ultimate price. But it's for us, and we appreciate that to the absolute bottom of our heart. We cannot say thank you enough. And like you're talking about with those multiple tours, you know, I think from a philosophical standpoint, we could talk about it from a number of different ways, but I agree with you. We can't continue to ask our men and women to answer that call 3, 4, 5, 10. I know I've got some buddies that are special ops guys that have been on 13, 14, 17 deployments. That's crazy, Gunny.
Oh, right. You know, anybody that served in any kind of deployment or combat understands the stressors that are on your mind and your body, which stays with you. When you're younger, you feel you're invincible. Well, you know what? You are at a point. But when you hit a certain age and you start seeing what's going on and you realize your brain starts to function like that too. And you know that the vets aren't getting help. If they're not getting help, what are they going to turn to? Well, and I my accolades to the VA right now, because the VA is trying to help the veteran. I get excellent treatment at the VA down here in Florida. I've got excellent treatment with my mental health programs, with my cancer treatments. I'm a double cancer patient, spinal cord patient, but the VA takes excellent care of us and the younger veterans here. But I can't say the same at the VAs all over the country. That's not true. Right. And by us doing what we're doing and what you're doing for Veterans for Cannabis, and we just got to continue pushing this, we have to get the same treatment all over the country for our brothers and sisters from all conflicts, and even some of them that didn't serve in conflicts. You can have PTSD, anxiety, and depression and not ever been in combat. You could see something happen to somebody at a base camp or get hit by a truck at boot camp. That's trauma. That can cause PTSD in people. So I mean, it's got to stop. I'm at a point in my life where I'm going to do what I can, and the majority of people know I speak out. I don't hold anything back. If somebody doesn't like what I say, well, you know what? It's me. You have to take me for what I am. But I speak out to help the veterans at my VA hospital and all the hospitals here in Florida, because I'm pretty well known. I think you know that from when I met you in Orlando at the convention. And it's just, if you, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out, there's a word I'm trying to say, but the word is that a bonding has occurred for the first time, I believe, in the history of all the veterans, and they're tired of it. We're tired of seeing innocent and meaningless deaths of veterans, and when they come back, they're not being taken care of. It's got to stop.
Gunny,
it's got to stop.
It does have to stop. But will you just elaborate a little bit for us? There's a big difference in our community between going in and bitching about your issues and going in and actually saying, here's my problem. Here's how I'd like to see it improved. Help us do that. So how do you do that advocacy work that you do, Gunny? How can we help our brothers and sisters understand how better to approach a situation that's maybe not the ideal situation that they need to improve? How can they do that? Well,
the biggest thing is, no matter what organization you represent, I'm a life member of every veteran service organization, but first and foremost, I've been involved with the American Legion. I've been appointed a hospital rep. Get involved. Whatever hospital or clinic you go to, try to get on the Veterans Advisory Board to meet with the director or the chief of staff and bring out the issues that you're having. Going in and just, causing problems doesn't do anything good. They have to know you're trying to help everybody positively. The veterans need to get involved at every VA hospital around the country, whether it's a clinic, an outpatient, or a hospital. Get involved. Get on some committees. Get involved in the mental health program. If you're not in the mental health group, I've been in the same group for 28 years. I'm in the Vietnam Combat Veterans Group.
Wow.
Okay, it's been the same guys. They tried to split us up years ago, but it took us so long to get together. We refused, so we have our own mentors. And now what they're doing is some of the older vets that understand it, you can become a mentor and work with the younger vets. But you've got to reach out and get involved. I mean, some people talk the talk, some people walk the walk, but you've got to get involved to help the veterans. I mean, just complaining doesn't, like you just said, complaining doesn't do any good. If you have a problem with a veteran, you have a problem with yourself, go to the patient advocate's office at a VA hospital. Go to your own doctor and your own charge nurse and start there, okay? And I believe at every VA hospital now there's a transition team office.
Absolutely.
For the OIF, OEF, and the active people coming back. I work directly with the transition team at Bay Pines, and they help me. I brought many young vets in that need housing problems, Section 8, HUD-VASH, problems with their claim, problem with a doctor. You have the right to choose your doctor no matter what VA hospital. If you're not satisfied with your doctor, you request another doctor. Under the federal statutes, they have to give you another doctor.
You're right. I think that's a great point to make, and I want to hit that again too. One of the things that our brothers and sisters oftentimes don't realize is that the VA works for us. They are paid for by us. So the one thing that we forget is that we can fire a physician, and I hate to use that word, but in this day and age, I think people understand it pretty well. Is that if your physician's not doing you right or you don't feel comfortable with them, all you've got to do is request a different one. And that's correct, right?
Very simple to do. Yes, sir. Very simple. And now with the new Mission Act, which I think it's going to be 250% better than the old choice program, which I've never used. I've always chose to stay at the VA facility or a pilot office. I'm a big believer. I've been treated at the VA my whole life. since I started having problems, since I got involved in